Have you seen me dice bag? The Grognard Files.
Hello, my name is Dirk the Dice, and this is the Grognard Files podcast, talking bobbins about tabletop RPGs from back in the day and today. This is the second part of episode 28, which includes all the bits that didn't appear in the first part, featuring the interview with the troll godfather, Ken St. Andre. This podcast goes deluxe. We've had another review, this time a blog entry from the Other Worlds blog by Finn Cullen that captures the spirit of what the Grognard Files is all about. The podcast covers retrospectives from some of the older games and his experiences playing them. He interviews gaming luminaries from back in the day and today and invites comment from his fellow host Judge Blythe, often going into the whys and wherefores of the rules and the systems being discussed. In more recent episodes, they moved on to cover more contemporary games and trends in the hobby, and their insights accord so strongly with my own that I found myself listening to the podcast with a sense that I'm sitting in with my own buddies and talking things through. The episodes are fun, engaging and informative, with a streak of laconic humour running through them, particularly when Dirk and Blythe are discussing something contentious in the room of role-playing rambling. Thanks, Finn. We have more from the interview with Ken St. Andre. He takes me on a tour of his troll cave, and we're joined by Gaz and Baz from What Would the Smart Party Do podcast to do some Tunnels and Trolls actual play. There's another First, Last and Everything from a member of the Grog Squad. This time it's Steve Ray at OlantheR on Twitter. Eddie and Blythe join me in the shed to talk about the 1976 film At the Earth's Core for the GROGGLEBOX. Peter Cushing and Doug McClure bore into the earth and met Caroline Munro being enslaved by pigmen with comb-overs. I'll be back at the end with some news. Until then, Ramblers, let's get rambling. It's good to see you. It's really good to see you. It's a real honour for me to do this with you.
It's my pleasure. And you called on my birthday. How amazing is that?
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. That's amazing.
Happy Fool's birthday, right?
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, it's my birthday on Thursday, so yeah.
Yeah.
Happy
Yeah,
birthday.
we're practically twins.
Separated at birth.
Separated at birth, that's it.
Yeah.
Would you like me to show you some amazing things that are here in the Troll Cave?
I would love to see them. Yeah, I would love to see
All right, I'm going to show you something that I believe is a first.
Right, okay.
I might be wrong. Other people might have done it, but I hadn't heard of it. So, 1 second.
Okay.
Can you see this guy?
Oh, wow. Yeah, just hold it up a little bit more.
So there's a man named Darcy Perry who, among other things, makes miniatures in New Zealand.
Ah,
and
right.
He contacted me last year and asked if he could make a Troll Godfather miniature or a Troll God miniature. So we did. And as you notice, it has, my face and my hat. And I told him to put a hammer in, and it has like a World Wrestling Federation title belt there for the championship. And so this is an actual solid pewter miniature made of a living game designer for a fantasy game.
And is that available? Can people buy that?
They are.
Yeah.
That's about $60. I have a couple. There's also available in resin. It's just like little plastic things. This is something that Gary or Dave or, Mark or Greg never did. It just shows, Tunnels and Trolls. Ken St. Andre is out there opening new fields, doing new things before anybody. Or maybe after anybody in all their cases. other major trophy. This is the 2013 super rare version of Deluxe Tunnels and Trolls. When I say super rare, I mean, super rare because only about 5 or 6 of them were made.
Really? Wow.
One for each of the people on the Fellowship of the Troll. This is, in its slipcase, the Dragonhide edition.
Wow.
Of Deluxe Tunnels and Trolls. It's in this black Dragonhide because when they said, how do you want these bound for the super rare hardbound edition, I said, in black Dragonhide if you have it. And this is what the binder pulled out for me. So you can see the scales on it?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So that other game, I never managed to get any of their games bound in Trollhide, as far as I'm aware of. But we totally own them. Right? Inside, with all the autographs and the map, and the rest of it's just the same as the regular Deluxe Tunnels and Trolls book, in hardback.
I was going to ask you, Ken, what was it like getting the gang back together, the fellowship back together to do Deluxe Tunnels and Trolls?
Boy, was it a pain. It was Steve Crompton's idea.
Yeah.
Okay. We had run out of regular copies of Tunnels and Trolls to sell and needed to reprint. And Steve was saying, let's make it super special. Let's get the gang together. We'll get Liz back in, and we'll get Bear to do stuff, and you and Rick will be our business agent and so forth, and we will do it that way. Bear's a hermit. He lives, in the northern part of Phoenix and hardly ever comes out. All he ever does is work and spend time with his wife. The only two who are really close and able to communicate easily are Steve and me. Did you ever see the original pictures from the photo shoot we did for the Kickstarter?
No, I didn't see those, no.
We went to Cave Creek, and we all dressed up Victorian era characters of some sort. And Liz came as a wizard, and I came as a wizard, and Bear came as a steampunk gentleman, and I forget what Rick came as. Rick came as himself, pretty much, and they gave us cowboy clothes, and I got an dusty overcoat and a top hat and a staff, and I did things where I was like shooting the others with a pistol, and we posed in the big family group thing and so on. It was a hoot. It was probably the most fun we had in all of that Fellowship of the Troll stuff there in 2013.
So did you ever get together at other times, or were you working over the internet? How did the project get together?
Mostly we worked separately. Steve worked in his house, and I worked in my house, and Liz worked in Tucson, and Rick worked at Flying Buffalo, and Bear worked in his home and brought us stuff. But we could all meet at Steve's house every once in a while and get together for a party or a conference where we made important decisions face to face so that nobody could say they were left out or weren't heard about the direction that the book was going to go in and proceed in.
Well, what I really like about it is how there seems to be a dialogue between you and Liz about what is the best rule to use. I like how you've incorporated some of that dispute that you've got with each other about how some of the rules should play out.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
If it had been strictly me, book would not be quite the book it is today. One of the things that I insisted on that had to be in there was that levels are determined by attributes. Back in the 5th edition and earlier, we had a table, If you got 1,000 adventure points, you got to go to level 2. Another 2,000 would take you to level 3, and so forth. The same basic scheme as that other game. In 2005, I came up with a better way. Levels determined by attributes. So if you have an attribute that's in the 20s, you're a second level character. If you have an attribute in the 30s, you're a third level character. If you start as a troll with a strength of 50, you're a fifth level character. Just like real life. That's how our levels really are determined, you know. If you know a lot and you're really, really smart, you're a much higher level character than somebody who doesn't know any, even if you're the same age, right? If you're a race driver and you have super reflexes and a lot of skill, you're a high level race driver as compared to an ordinary driver like myself. Yeah, I pushed a car up over 100 miles an hour once or twice, but I don't make my living at it. In Tunnels and Trolls, your level is determined by your best attribute.
Yeah.
And the levels give you different bonuses, you know, but I insisted on this because they wanted to go back to the old table style of doing things. I stamped my feet. I raged and shook my fist and shouted and howled and jumped up and down. And I made sure that that was in the rules.
Strong fellowship, yeah.
On the other hand, I also wanted to have a form of magic resistance in the rules, where in order to cast a spell on somebody else, you had to have higher wizardry rating than they had. This would give some people an automatic resistance to magic. So if a warrior had a wizardry rating of 15, and some first level wizard was going to try to blast him with a 12-point Take That You Fiend spell at first level, it would bounce off. You know, and this would explain characters like Conan.
Absolutely.
Who always seemed remarkably magic resistant in the fantasy. And we argued about this for a long time, but they won and the magic resistance went away. So you can see those rules in Tunnels and Trolls 7th edition and 7.5, but not in Deluxe.
How did those decisions get finalised? Was it whoever could shout the loudest?
Well, Liz had the editorial role.
Right.
I had the authorial role.
Yeah.
And the group had the democratic role. So on that one, we voted. Bear wanted it the old way. Liz wanted it the old way. Steve didn't care, and I wanted it the new way. So it was like 2.5 to 1.5. In that case, I acceded and said, okay, it'll still be Tunnels and Trolls, and it'll be easier for some people to understand, and we'll do it your way.
The thing that appealed to me when I was a kid with Tunnels and Trolls is that it was so simple and so simply produced. Do you miss that, like homemade aesthetic that Tunnels and Trolls had? I
do miss it quite a bit, but I'm doing something about it and have been doing something about it since 2011. You probably know about Troll Holla Press on DriveThruRPG, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's available in PDFs, but sometimes we go the extra step and make it available in hard copy, and that's just like the early days, right? I'm going to show you one.
Yeah.
So you just saw the masterpiece of Liz Danforth and Steve Crompton and Flying Buffalo and so forth in Deluxe Tunnels and Trolls. Now we'll show you a not such a masterpiece that was completely written by me, illustrated by a couple of local fan artists that I know, and produced as a book through Troll Holla Press. Does this strike you as more like, first edition TNT?
Yeah, that's more like it. Yeah. Yeah.
This was my latest production from a Tunnels and Trolls stand. It's called The Peacock Continent of Troll World, and it's about an isolated Australia-like continent that's off in a remote corner of the planet where a semi-human race, more like the Melniboneans than ordinary humans, of peacock people live. And the men are all fancy, dancy, schmancy wizards. The women are all, me, Torg, strong warrior, me, smack you in head, type characters. And we totally reversed role gender models here for this book and just had a blast. Finally got my editor, who is also a bit of an artist, to draw me a map.
Wow, that's a good map.
So I'm still doing things. And
Yeah.
have you seen? Did you see the little minimalist role-playing game that I did last month called Fours?
Yes, I did. And what were you trying to achieve with that? What do
I
you
was
think?
trying to achieve a role-playing game with as few rules as possible, but still crunchy enough to be interesting,
Yeah,
that I could apply to any situation, sort of like the fate system or whatever, and that it would obviously be designed for any role-playing system, for playing anywhere you want. You want to play pirates? All right, we can play pirates with Fours. You want to play spacemen? We can do that. You want to play superheroes? We can do that. In fact, I did that Friday night at the game convention I was just at. It was two superheroes investigate Dracula's castle in Romania.
wow, that sounds great.
And they met Dracula at the end.
Of course, brilliant. So just going back to Tunnels and Trolls, because a good friend of the podcast, John Hancock, pointed out that back in the 80s in a fanzine, you said that the TNT was a zombie, and it's still staggering on. Do you feel like it's come back to life?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In the 80s, it was possible that TNT might have just sort of faded away. Rick decided not to publish anymore. Disappeared like dozens or hundreds of other individual effort role-playing games that were out at the time did. I was a new father. My daughter had just been born.
Yeah.
And I was deeply involved with trying to get ahead in my library career. Not part of the real Flying Buffalo crew, which was 30 miles away or 20 miles away. Someplace, they were in Tempe, I was in Phoenix. I had to make an effort to go out and see them. It kind of felt like, it might just fade away completely. I was still having fun with my friends and, game conventions and such, but that was about it. There wasn't any major marketing push. In fact, we never did give up. We never did die. So it might have been an impression, but it wasn't the truth. Tunnels and Trolls was never a zombie.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear. I think John worries about that analogy.
Well, now in the 21st century, it's flourishing like it never did before. And that may be because in the 90s, I started an internet fan club for Tunnels and Trolls called Trollhalla. And at our heyday, we had about 400 members. I was just going to do it all with HTML and a site on... anyway, that was a free website available. It wasn't Yahoo at the time. It was someplace else. And I got it, and I did up an HTML version of an interactive page where I could, put up messages anytime I wanted to sit down and just change the HTML and write something new. And people could write to me or send me emails, and I could post them in there. And then one of my fans, who was a much better programmer than I, in fact, the world is full of people who are much better at what they do than I am, but I don't care. They work for me. I don't work for them. I work for me too, right? But so if I'm having fun and you're having fun, we're all having fun. That's the important thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're having fun and I'm not having fun, that's a bummer. And if I'm having fun and you're not having fun, well, that's narcissism. Narcissism.
Yeah.
But if we're all having fun, that's a win-win. That's great.
And-
Anyway, he was a much better programmer than me, and he said, "Ken, I could do something in God, what's that language called now? Anyway, I can do something in SPL or STL or whatever it is.
Yeah, one of those.
HPL.
Yeah.
I can do it in Howard Philip Lovecraft's language, with Cthulhu in the background, and we'll make a page that's really interactive." I went, "Okay, Joe." I remember who did it anyway. "Okay, Joe, do it. Show me." And that's when Trollhalla really took off.
Yeah.
And when
Fantastic.
it really died was when they modified the language so much. They updated it and updated it and updated it that my old code wouldn't work. And my old coder had moved on to other things and wasn't interested in doing new code.
Well, you've already mentioned Conan and H.P. Lovecraft and Melnibone. So your work and you are steeped in novels and books.
If I could spin the computer screen around, let me see.
Yeah, look at this.
It's practically glued to the table here. See all the books and things behind me?
Yeah.
And there's another bookcase over there, and 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 a bookcase over there, and a bookcase over there, and stuff piled on the chairs.
Yeah.
And then there's my bedroom.
Yeah. It doesn't look like the Dewey Decimal System's in operation here, is it?
It is not the Dewey Decimal System. It's just where do I have room on the shelf for this book? And the bookcase that's over there is full of the best stuff, the absolute best stuff. That's where the Deluxe TNT stays. That's where Grimtooth's Ultimate Traps collection is sitting. That's where this is where the hardbound Donald M. Grant hardbound editions of the original Robert E. Howard stories lives. Fine art, fine paper. This is the people of the Black Circle. That's where Conan is in India, basically, fighting those wizards on the mountaintop.
Yeah.
To rescue the princess. I'm a real Robert E. Howard fan.
Wow.
This is Black Volney's Vengeance. Nobody's even heard of this book. These are the pirate stories that Robert E. Howard wrote. The Treasure of Tranikos was originally a pirate story, and he reworked it into a Conan story for the story where Conan's out on the Pictish coast, fighting Picts there as a pirate. These are the original Alex Raymond, Flash Gordon comic strips from the 30s.
Oh.
That's what this book is. It's a compilation.
Oh, they're great.
The original Flash Gordon story. This is The Face in the Abyss by Abraham Merritt. This is sort of modern fantasy. Modern being, the 1930s.
Yeah.
And his hero was a 20th century Earthman who gets caught up and lost in this incredibly fantastic place where the gods are real. And again, these I have these books because, I wasn't around in the 1930s. I have these books because of Donald M. Grant Press, which produced these really fine, high-quality versions of these fantasy masterpieces and classics.
And the illustrations look fantastic in those as well.
They are great. They're just really, that's one of the prime reasons for buying it.
You collaborated with Greg and Steve on Stormbringer, which I played the other day on my birthday, actually. We had a great time playing that. Yeah, it was excellent. Excellent.
That's the thing that matters the most to me, is that the people who play these games actually have a good time.
Yeah.
That they enjoy them. You might learn something or you might not, but you get to go someplace else and be and feel and think different things for a little while.
And what was the experience of adapting Moorcock's world for Stormbringer? Was that a labour of love?
It was a labour of love.
Yeah.
By the time I was in high school, I was actively seeking out anything that I called sword and sorcery.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked through book catalogs to find things. And if it seemed like it could be sword and sorcery, I bought it. So I had the first two thin editions of Moorcock's books, Stormbringer and the Stealer of Souls, in which everything is a short story in Stormbringer. And then the Stealer of Souls is sort of a novel-length conclusion for what Moorcock meant to do was just end the Elric epic right there. Mm-hmm. He had written some stories. He wrote a climax. He destroyed the world. What more could an author do?
Yeah.
He came up with that great ending line, where Elric is dead, and Stormbringer goes happily laughing off into limbo, going, I was always more evil than you. And that was it. That was all that existed of Elric in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And I had them, and I had read them a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked them. I really liked the fact that they took the Conan stereotype. Conan was not a stereotype when Howard created him. Conan was an original.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing like Conan in fantasy fiction up to that point. Nothing. But he had become a stereotype by the 70s, and been satirized many times and so on. And Moorcock took that, the common barbarian super warrior, and stood it on its head with Elric and said, we will have an effete prince who gets all his powers from his magic sword and write his adventures. Oh, this is great. This is just you get all the same wonderful gods and monsters mythos background. There's obviously a bit of a science fiction influence in here because Moorcock's not coming up with traditional, dragons and chimeras and ordinary things. In fact, the dragons are his pets. The Melnibonéans control them and ride them around like horses. I loved it. I just loved it. And when I heard that Chaosium had gotten the rights to do a Elric game, a Moorcock-based game, I went, oh boy, I would sure like to be involved in that. And then my friend at the time, Rudy Kraft, says, I'm going to go for that. I'm going to pitch this idea to Greg for it. And he pitched an idea that sounded very much like that other game. I went, well, good luck, Rudy. The next day I wrote Greg a letter saying, I understand Rudy's pitching this approach for your new Moorcock-based Elric game. I read what he's going to do, because he told me. And I think it's a terrible idea. I want to pitch my idea. So this is what I think should be done, Mm-hmm. And I outlined like the character creation and the outline. I says, and D20s. Everybody uses D20s. That's that other game. Let's use a real D100. Mm-hmm. Because your basic role-playing system already goes to 100, and so instead of doing everything in 5% increments, we'll do them in 1% increments. We can roll a D100, and we can increase things by 1 point at a time, or 2 points, just a little bit. And then you want a skill system? We can have a skill system. We'll do a skill system where, you get so many and you can get new ones this way and that way. And, a 4-page letter pitching Stormbringer. And a week later, I got a letter back from him that says, Ken, the job is yours. Start writing.
And of course, it came out the same year as Call of Cthulhu, didn't it? So, yeah.
Tragic. Those games actually tied in the voting for Best Game of the Year at the Origins Game Awards the next year. So, damn it, Sandy, couldn't you have held off for a Cthulhu game for one more year? I could have had my award, and you could have had your award, and we wouldn't have to share one. They actually gave us both the award that year at Origins in, 1984 or something. I forget the exact title or date. But yeah, it was like the only game award I ever won. Really?
Over all this time?
Yeah. Well, there were fewer game awards being given out back then.
Yeah.
But Tunnels and Trolls never won anything. Last year, principally through the maneuverings of my friend John Wick, the game designer.
Yeah.
The Origins Committee said, yeah, we have overlooked him a long time. We thought about him earlier, and he lost out to somebody else in the voting. Let's put him in the Hall of Fame. And John Wick encouraged that, and I wasn't going to go to Origins last year, And Rick said, "Would you go if they put you in the Hall of Fame?" I went, "Well, yeah, I guess I'd have to go."
Yeah.
So we went, and we finally got in on the basis of my lifetime achievement, rather than any particular game.
Well, finally, I've got a question from one of our listeners, somebody you might know, and he's got a special plea here. It says, Ken, you recruited Big Jack Brass in Gristlegrim's floating dungeon nearly 20 years ago. Any chance of a parole hearing?
Well, Jack can always go out whenever he wants. Gristlegrim will let him out. That story is available on Trollhalla Press. You can buy and read the story of how Big Jack Brass, offered to sacrifice his beard to Gristlegrim in order to get into the place, and how he completely flubbed every single thing he did on the inside.
Fantastic.
He still lives to tell the tale. I don't know of anybody who's ever actually used Jack as a monster. That's what we put him in. We figured he'd make a great comic relief monster, to throw at somebody in a TNT game sometime. Jack can go out and have more adventures. In fact, John, if you're listening to this or seeing this, I want you to write me another Big Jack Brass adventure or two. Or, maybe we could take him off to the Peacock Continent. Would he wear a skirt? This is all I need to add. Would he wear a skirt and high shoulders, to be part of the wizard class on the Peacock Continent?
and on that note, I think I've said thank you very much, Ken.
Bye.
Bye now.
Call me anytime.
Thank you.
Actual play!
So you're goblins. You've got pointy ears, pointy teeth, slick green skin. Yeah. No hair. And you've got longer legs and long arms, are longer than your body. And a sunken chest and a hard, hot belly. And you dream of returning to Fishquish Lake, where things were simpler. All you had to worry about every day was spearing fat, shimmering fish in the lake. But King Snorking had to do a deal with a Uruk raiding party. So you've been led to this hidden location after years of moving around the complex. You don't know quite where you are in relation to the rest of the underground, but it's dank and dark. And you're about to be briefed by Captain Tark Barak, who's your slave master, one of the brack-breaking Uruks. He's in retirement, but despite his years and scars and wounds that he has, he's kept himself in good shape, and he's quite an imposing figure. And he's provided you skewered charcoal rats on a stick for you to eat. And you're in a kitchen area in the centre of a room where there's a couple of cells. A cell that you've just come out of, and a cell that's got 3 other goblins in there. Greb, Herbs, and Jackan. You should in no way see them as spare characters. And so you're sat in the middle, and he's feeding you these rats on a stick. They're quite a delicacy. They sell them elsewhere in the dungeon. And he's shoveling. He's got big barrels of salt around, and he shovels some onto your plate for you to season it. Greb, Herbs, and Jarek are trying to reaching out because they want a scrap from your plate. So it's a chance to introduce yourself. So he's going to do a quick roll call. So let's hear up from Portinskew.
Portinskew, yeah, or Potty for short. He's not, strictly speaking, a goblin. He's actually a hobbit with Stockholm Syndrome. So he's been captured by the goblins a long, long time ago, and he now thinks of himself as a goblin, and you think he's a goblin as well, and everyone else thinks he's a goblin. He's got a spell called Get Over It, which is a healing spell.
And what about Gut?
So I am Gut Rub, and I'm in every sense a goblin. I'm the last of my name in my clan, the Red Gizzard clan. Well, apart from my younger brother, who's got the same name, I assume, and is also part of the same clan. But apart from that, I'm the last of my name apart from the other one. And I used to work in a basilisk hatchery, which is probably the reason why I've got 2 eye patches one over each eye, with small crystals set amongst them, so I can see vaguely, but I'm pretty much as blind as someone who works in a basilisk hatchery should be.
Okay, what about Git?
Git is the homunculus of Gut. He's almost identical, but about 66% of the size. He's licking his lips and sniffing the air at the smell of charcoal rat because he's somehow misplaced his crystal eye patch. God knows where it went, but hopefully his older brother can look after him. So for now, he's sniffing out those ratty morsels with the power of his not inconsequential nasal cavities. He too used to work in the basilisk hatchery, so that's why he's been blind. But he knows of a secret, perhaps, a way out of this godforsaken place. If only Gut to stop messing about and get in on the plan so we can get out and get back to that lovely fish squish lake where we could dine on wriggly jelly deals.
Tarak pulls up a chair and sits, and he starts to brief you. To you, he sounds quite refined. Listen carefully. You're about to be deployed as greasers, and he lifts lead buckets with thick, cloying, orange animal fat in them. So there's 3 buckets, and he hands them to you. This is the temple area of the complex. There's a shrine to the Great One. And what we lack in number, we will make up with decoys, ambush, inveiglement machinery, prankish strategy, and a number of baited devices. You're here to maintain them. Traps. This place is filled with traps, and the traps in this section are designed by the great Grimtooth himself. You're on a 3-day shift. 1 day, 2 day, 3 day. So today is 1 day, tomorrow is 2 day, and the day after that is tomorrow after that. Is that clear?
1,
Crystal.
2 lots. I think we get it.
Portiscue, repeat it back.
It's a 3-day shift. So,
Yes.
Day 1, day 2, then the next day is the day after day 2.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Now, it's dangerous work, so you understand. So take care, protect yourself against the human scum. And he hands you your blades, some thick blades. He gets them out of a sack that he's got at the side. And protect yourself. Look after yourselves. We're expecting an attack at any time.
He's quite a reasonable chap, doesn't he, actually, where you put him across there. For a slave master. He's quite nice.
Well, yeah, he's
I can understand why I've got Stockholm Syndrome now.
And he says, there seems to be a disturbance in trap 3. And there's something wrong with 1. It's been like that all week. And you can see that there's a pebble fluttering. The other one's fallen over. The one for trap 2 has fallen over. So it seems to be some kind of warning device that he's got to show whether the traps are working or not.
Right.
What can you see, Gut? What can you see? And Git will rub his greasy fingers all over the map, trying to discern dimples or any other feature he might be able to tell with his wanting eyesight.
Get off, you're smearing it. Backhand him across the cell. Right, hang on, let me get a proper look at this thing. I'll hold it like half an inch away from my enormous green nose. And use the crystal set into my eye patch like a jeweller's eyepiece, and move up and down across the parchment like 1 centimetre at a time. Well, we've from here. Well, I suppose I don't know how long it's going to take to get around, but I think trap 3 seems the closest. I guess we could take our buckets of grease there and see what's going on. Would that be a good thing to do? What do you say, pot and skew?
That sounds a good plan. Is this rat on a stick thing? Is that our breakfast?
Yes.
Do we get a second breakfast? I know where these thoughts come from. Occasionally, I have these thoughts about second breakfast. I'm not quite sure where they come from. But yes, trap 3.
Well, you haven't seen my eye patch about. Have you got? I did a minute ago, I'm sure.
I haven't seen much recently these past few years. It can't be this one. I've only got this one and that one. So no, it's none of those.
Well, you've got 2.
one for each eye. Makes
Well,
sense,
we'll
doesn't
lend
it?
us one.
I'm not an idiot. They're eye
I'm going to be
patches.
sticking my fingers in traps and stuff. You can't be sending me in blind.
You'll be all right. You're smaller than me, so any spear traps will go right over your head. I'll no doubt take one in the face for you. Don't worry. Great. Okay. Follow me. I'll walk into the wall.
Follow him. I should lead the way, given that I can see. I have that superpower, being able to see.
So what you can see, Git, through, you can see shapes and movement, but they've sealed your eyelids with wax. So that's all you can see through there. So you're not completely blind. It just means that anything that you do will be one level harder than the others.
I'll grab a fistful of Pottingskey's cloak then, and follow him up the stairs.
Okay, so you go up the stairs, and at the top there it looks like a tapestry that you can pull aside, and there's a corridor, quite an austere corridor of granite with 3 pillars down the centre that have been carved. Coiled serpents wrap around these pillars, and at the top you can see on a pedestal a statue, a vermilion statue of a winged creature with horns.
Okay. So we're supposed to go up towards this statue, and then there should be a little passageway with the trap in it, right?
Yeah. To our right. Yeah.
The eyes of the statue flick open. The wings of it unfurl. It's quite a wide span. It fills the width of the corridor.
Well, that's not good.
Git'll drop to his knees and cower.
You cannot go past.
We're the official trap maintenance crew.
I've not seen your faces before.
We've been sent by our boss. We're the new shift.
Yeah.
You don't. Listen. You're not the trap, are you?
The trap? I have been put here to protect the temple. I have certain discretion in these matters, but you can't get past.
Will it help if we grease you up? Or grease your palms?
I beg your pardon?
We've got
not
some
kind of
buckets
monster.
of grease. We can grease your palms. I've heard that's what humans do to get places.
Humans, where are they?
They're just down the
Are
stairs.
they
I
behind
saw
me?
them a minute ago.
Just down the corridor, yeah.
I may have let some through. Like I say, I have some discretion in this matter. There was too many of them.
What kind of discretion do you have? Can you let us through then if you have discretion?
No, you
Well, not
cannot
you.
go past. I will let the Ilkin pass. You must stay.
Me?
Yes.
I am an Ilkin.
Oh no, you're not.
Oh,
Oh,
yes,
yes,
I
he
am.
He puts up a long finger and points to your feet, and you can see that there's little tufts of hair sticking up between your toes.
Ooh.
And I'll get down on my hands and knees and get a couple of inches away from his feet. You know what? I think he might be right. This is the first I've heard of this. Maybe you're not a goblin after all. You smell like
I
one.
can't believe that.
His feet probably just need greasing down a bit.
Yeah, probably. The hair just needs greasing down. What are you suggesting I am? I say to this demonic figure. What's he suggesting that I am if I'm not an Ilkin?
I've seen them before in rogues. They usually travel with human scum. I think they call them half men.
No, don't know what you're talking about.
I am bound by the wizard who put me here to kill any non-Ilkin that passes. Therefore, half man, I am going to eat you.
Before you do, did you say that you'd let some humans pass? And
I
the-
have
Well,
I
yeah,
have certain
look,
I have certain discretion in this matter.
Well, you say you have. Have you got discretion? Or have you just failed in your duties? Now, if you failed in your duties, we won't say anything about it. We'll go in and maintain the trap, get rid of the people that are in there, and no one needs to know.
Okay, give me a level 3 charisma roll.
Level 3? Good
Yeah.
God, that's 30 or more, isn't it?
Yeah.
Charisma. You trust me on this?
What's your charisma?
14, so I need a
16.
16 or more.
On how many dice?
On 2, but double
Oh,
you
of
doubles,
course.
you just... No. 6. That's a 20. No, I failed.
Awful.
Failed
A s-
miserably.
A splash of drool falls from his mouth onto the corridor. No, half man, you cannot pass. I'll let these Ilkin go. Be on your way. If you have to fix traps, fix them. Leave this one with me, and I will eat him. First, last, and everything.
Hello. This is my contribution to the soon-to-be legendary First, Last and Everything segment. I'm Steve Ray, at AllAnthar on Twitter. I'm not sure how I first heard of gaming or tabletop role-playing as a kid. I certainly didn't play a lot of board games when I was younger, other than the standard 70s fare of Buckaroo, Mousetrap and Monopoly. I'd always been interested in fantasy and sci-fi novels though. Alongside the peerless Tolkien, I'd also been captivated by Julian May's Saga of the Exiles, a time-travelling saga that saw fugitives from a future utopian society going into Earth's prehistoric past, only to find it already claimed by warring psionic races from a far galaxy. Amazing stuff, and I spent many happy hours daydreaming about actually being one of the exiles, one with amazing psionic powers obviously. However, my first glimpse of a way to live out these daydreams, if only by proxy, came with hearing about the fighting fantasy game books and meeting my friend Ant for the first time. Having purchased the Forest of Doom from the local Smiths, I was entirely hooked on the whole concept and I wanted more of it, or anything like it. Even though this was 1983 and I was 15, I'd never heard of Dungeons and Dragons, Traveller, White Dwarf or anything like that. But someone told me at school that if I was interested in that sort of thing, then Ant was the man. I didn't really know him, other than as a kid who hung around with another lad who wore a jacket festooned with Kiss band patches, another thing I was drawn to but had no understanding of. Having made my first approach, alright, you got loads of those fighting fantasy books, could I borrow some? I managed to get a reluctant invite to Ant's house to see his gaming stuff. To say Ant was a pinnacle of gaming cool in 1983 would be an understatement. He'd been started off early in wargaming by his uncle, and by the time I met him he'd become well established and seemed to own a copy of virtually everything. AD&D, RuneQuest, Bushido, Laserburn, Nuclear War, Traveller, Illuminati, the list goes on. What impressed me most was the offhand way he'd refer to stuff as I opened boxes and cupboards in his gaming den to be greeted by ever more amazing finds. Oh yeah, that's my fully painted 15mm English Civil War army. Or, oh yeah, that's a full set of the Car Wars games and all the Uncle Albert's catalogues. He'd even been on a week-long gaming holiday to Peter Gilder's Wargaming Holiday Centre, returning with tales of manoeuvring vast blocks of miniature Napoleonic soldiers across fully detailed gaming tables, complete with needles for bayonets to stop you leaning on them. I must have stared disbelievingly at this. His parents had paid for him to do that. I came from a standard Midlands working class background, and this type of thing was so far outside my conception of what was possible, it may as well have been science fiction. I had no idea what any of this stuff was or how it was used, of course. I just knew that I wanted in. Ant graciously let me borrow some of his collection of white dwarfs, and I devoured them. Again, I had no clue what I was looking at, but magical sounding terms like Thaco and Sword of Humact just drew me in even further. I even read one White Dwarf article that gave tips on how to play the Saga of the Exiles in AD&D. I couldn't make head or tail of it, but I was in. The problem was that Ant didn't like DMing games. Like most of us at that age, we were fairly shy and retiring and didn't like to show ourselves up in front of others. So apart from one very brief AD&D session where I chased a couple of kobolds around a tiny dungeon, we mainly played board games or miniature war games along with a small group of Ant's friends that I managed to foist myself upon. But the allure of RPGs remained, bringing me to my first. Like the Armchair Adventurers, we had our own version of the Prime Directive, although we never articulated it like that. It was more that Ant had pretty much everything already, and we didn't have cash to throw around. $9.99 was a lot of money for us to spend on anything in the early 80s. However, in reading White Dwarf, I'd come across repeated references to something named Call of Cthulhu, but I had no clue what it was. But it had the advantage that Ant didn't already own it, and so I kept looking at adverts for the Games Workshop box set, reading scenarios and pondering how to say words like Nyarlathotep and Cthulhu. It wasn't until Games Workshop brought out its Good Games Guide in 1985 that I bit the bullet and shelled out some of my McDonald's wages for the game and the Cthulhu Companion at the Birmingham branch of Games Workshop, back when the legendary Ted still ran the place. Anyone remember him? I spent ages reading the rules, some of which I found genuinely unsettling, and eventually ran one of the introductory scenarios, the haunted house, rebranded by me as the last house on the left, to firmly establish in my players' minds that this was a horror game. I can't really remember what happened, but I have a vivid memory of us all sitting down in Aunt's mum's dining room, rolling dice and mocking each other mercilessly. We played Cthulhu, perhaps a couple more times, on one memorable occasion, rampaging through White Dwarf's The Horse the Invisible, where the players ended up torturing a butler for information, then engaging in a firefight with police called by the other terrified servants. Good times. But this was the time when GW and other companies were pumping out RPGs on what seemed like a daily basis. MERP, Judge Dredd, Golden Heroes. With income from our part-time jobs, we bought them all and sometimes played them, the new shiny always pushing other games to the back of the queue. Although my original Cthulhu box fell victim to one of our group's constant game trading sessions long ago, I recently picked up a copy of the box and companion in great condition. Opening it up took me right back and made me want to run Cthulhu again at some point. For me, RPGs remained an important part of my gaming life until the mid to late 90s. But it was always alongside and eventually overtaken by miniature wargaming. All sorts of things, but mainly Warhammer 40,000 or 40k for the cognoscenti. I think we just got older, and as we'd never spent any time on any one game, we weren't invested in any world or set of characters. Besides, most of us had families by then or other commitments, and wargaming had the advantage of being easy to arrange with little thought needed beforehand. Or rather it was, that is, until a chance remark by my daughter a couple of days before Christmas in 2017. I think she'd seen a reference to Critical Role and D&D on social media and casually declared she'd like to give it a go. Rather than buying a player's handbook straight off, I remembered I'd got a few bits of RPG stuff in the loft that I'd kept for sentimental reasons mainly. A battered RQ2 rulebook and Cults of Prax, together with some Earthdawn books. Picking up the RuneQuest, I wondered whether there were any podcasts covering this stuff. The phrase "Sword of Humact" still rang in my memory, so perhaps it was time to find out what one actually was. I found a podcast called the Grognard Files on iTunes, of course, and the rest, as they say, is history. On listening to Dirk, Blythe and Ed ramble on about the game, I experienced a warm rush of nostalgia. Wargaming was all very well, but I really hankered after a narrative game experience, where the story was all and notions of winning and losing were unnecessary. But where in gaming could such an experience be found? As the great man said, "Don't!" Now, after a break of 16 years and 16 months on from those first tentative steps back into RPGs, I'm all in once more. I've played and run games at conventions. I've played in epic OSR campaigns that have twisted my mind. Old Scouts of role-playing, I'm looking at you. Taken part in full-on single-system gaming weekends. Shout out to the hashtag One Ring Road Trip Massive. And have embraced running sprawling narrative games on Roll20. Brilliant stuff. As I write this, the last game I played was the excellent Scum and Villainy from Evil Hat, a world away from the games that first drew me in during the mid-80s. It's a great, quirky game, and I like the way it jumps straight to the action and says yes but to the players. I'm in the process of putting together a mashup of elements of this approach and traditional RuneQuest to run a heist caper set in Boldholm during a future session. Experimental stuff. All of which neatly brings me to my everything game. It was the thought of RuneQuest and the possibility of finally understanding what a Sword of Humact was that brought me back into the hobby. A tentative call out on Twitter for a group to help me practice my rusty GMing abilities resulted in 5 strangers willing to give it a go, just for 6 sessions or so. Now, just over a year on, we've become embroiled in the political machinations of the lunar occupation of Sartar, and we're 26 sessions in. The session write-ups alone come to around 40,000 words. Although the game has its limitations and oddities, hasn't every set of rules, it's become my everything game because of the friendships that have grown up around it, as they have around every game I've played and run since coming back into the fold. So that's it. Call of Cthulhu first, Scum and Villainy last, and RuneQuest my everything. Thanks to Dirk for letting me drone on about this, and possibly providing a different regional accent for overseas listeners to get irritated by.
GROGGLEBOX!
Okay, we've come to the shed. It's Ed's screening room. It don't sound right, that, does it? Screening room. Sounds like you. Ed's going to get us naked and make us cough. Hello, Eddie.
Hello, Dirk.
Hello, Blythe.
Hello, Dirk.
We've come to your shed and we've been watching a movie, At the Earth's Core. A British movie which was released in 1976. based on the Edgar Rice Burroughs novel of the same name. It was a serial. 1914 it was originally written.
All right.
And since we had Ken St Andrea on, and he was saying about how much of an influence Edgar Rice Burroughs is, I've been reading it, and it makes you realise how much of an influence he's had on people that we like. So like Michael Moorcock, you can definitely see the influence of Edgar Rice Burroughs. And as a kid, Tarzan, I used to watch Tarzan a lot, the Ron Eli one.
Yeah.
No, I used to watch the Johnny Weissmuller. No, the black and white
The
one.
black and white film, yeah, they used to be on BBC too, didn't they?
But I never wanted to read them when I got into fantasy. For some reason, Tarzan was completely so far away from fantasy that I never thought I'd want to read it. I think I heard he'd done the, was it the Carter and Mars?
Yeah, John Carter and Mars.
But I don't know, it just wasn't on my radar.
Yeah.
Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Yeah. But particularly that series it was on in the 70s with Ron Eli, TV series. The one with the famous tune, where he starts off with him going.
Does he have a chimp?
He does have,
Cheetah.
Cheetah.
Yeah, oh yeah, I did
chimp,
used to
innit?
watch that, yeah.
Yeah, and Jay. And I used to like Ron Eli because he has a look at my dad when I was younger.
I used to think he looked like my dad.
Yeah.
It's funny that.
Maybe he
isn't
looks like everyone's dad.
Yeah.
That was his popularity. Everyone thought their dad was Tarzan. And somehow Ron Eli encapsulated that. The fatherly figure.
So, At the Earth's Core, is this a film that you saw when you were younger?
I must have done, because there was nothing much else on telly, was there? So in the 70s, 3 channels.
Can be assured you
Well,
saw
the 2
everything
channels.
in the 70s.
Yeah, so if that was on telly on a Saturday night, which it probably was at some stage, weren't it?
I remember
It would have
watching
been
it as a kid. When I rewatched it, I vividly, it all came kind of flooding back. I was almost a scene ahead of them.
Yeah.
It did come back to me.
Now, the reason why I've suggested this is because I've been pretty obsessed by this film for most of my life.
Why?
But when I was I must have seen it when it came out, so I must have been about 8, because
Did you go to pictures?
I went to see the pictures, because whenever it was summer, I used to mind my dad to go and watch and he didn't find out about blockbusters, did he, in the same way you do now. You just used to look at the cinema and see what was on
there, yeah.
and the posters and the lobby cards. Remember the little photographs?
Yeah, the little
used to sell the
stills
pictures, and they had pictures of these monsters, and they looked fantastic.
Great,
yeah, and I wanted to see this film.
They looked fantastic because they weren't moving. We'll come on to that.
It really sold this film, and I remember taking my dad, and we went seeing it a few times while we were on holiday, because I used to say, I want to see it again.
Yeah.
And then in the 80s, my dad was a bit of an early adopter of VHS, and we had a video recorder. I don't know if you remember this, I don't know if you had this experience, but to be part of a video club, a mate at work had a mate who used to come round with a suitcase.
What kind of video club was this?
Yeah.
What's going on here? What's going to come out?
We all knew the videos on the
Remember this?
video shops on the corner, but
Yeah.
not a suitcase, right?
It's a bit like the pop. The man who came around with the pop.
A bit like
the
that,
pop
a bit
man.
like that. But what you had to do, because this was early on, when there wasn't that many shops around, to buy into this club, you had to buy a video. That was like your deposit.
Right.
Yeah.
A video machine.
No, an
actual
actual cassette. That was your his insurance policy. That at the end of it,
How much were them cassettes?
they were expensive. They were about £30.
Well, yeah, it's very expensive to buy them when they first
Yeah.
came out. Yeah, they were. Yeah.
So what the idea was is that you bought one that went into his catalogue, but it meant that
Some kind of weird pyramid scheme, this. Ponzi scheme. Ponzi video scheme, isn't it? Of what, you've been ripped off here. You never see it again.
Well, no, but you would rent. That means that you could borrow somebody else's. And I persuaded my dad to get At the Earth's Core
As the main one.
as ours.
All right.
Right.
And
But-
nobody ever borrowed it from him.
What? But what's the? Yeah, but you don't benefit from that because he's got it in his suitcase. hasn't he?
Exactly. I kept saying to my dad,
Get it, but
but
that's not
he
really
said, no,
what-
but I want to get something
It's
else.
like a weird wife swapping video kit. What kind of scheme is this?
But that's what happened. And the thing is, I don't think we actually ended up with that at the end. When he went
Yeah.
with his suitcase into the
You
distance.
know how like Margaret Thatcher. When you bought it, could you go, well, I'll watch it, and go, right, I watched it, then give it to him?
Yeah.
Right, so you watched it once, did you?
I kept wanting it back.
But you did watch it once.
I did watch
Your
it
dad
back.
didn't want it
But
back.
No, my dad wanted...
He didn't understand the subtleties of this weird business scheme. That
My
he's
dad
got.
wanted Emmanuel or whatever. And he used to put it on top of the kitchen cupboard and think, Anyway, that's another story. But yeah, this is a film that I watched a lot, and I have a bit of an affection for because...
I felt similarly kind of affectionate for it, watching it, because you do think that those films were a big deal back then.
They were,
You know,
weren't
because that's all you had. You
they?
know.
It was our only access, wasn't it, to fantasy films, really. The fantasy as we know it weren't really televised.
Well, I think I may have said this before, but you go to the cinema. You could go to cinema on any given day of the year now, and there will be some form of science fiction, superhero, or fantasy film available, whether it's a good one or not. But there will be something, won't there? You know, one minute it's Captain Marvel, the next minute it's the Avengers Endgame, and then it'd be something else. But back then they were seen as, I mean, they were treated, I suppose, with a bit of contempt by the filmmakers, as if they were sort of just B movies.
Were there actually any fantasy films in the 70s? Because would you argue that isn't a fantasy film to me?
It's a bit science fiction, isn't it? Science fantasy. But I know, it's not swords and sorcery kind of science fiction. No,
They're not
probably.
Probably Lord of the Rings as a cartoon. Well, that's 78, was it?
But you could describe Doug McClure as a franchise, couldn't you, now? Because he had a series of films, didn't he? Because he had The Land That Time Forgot, that came before this one.
Yeah.
And really, it's the same kind of story, isn't it?
Same stuff,
Same
isn't it?
monsters.
Doug McClure goes somewhere weird. And
Yeah.
hits people.
Tropical Island. Or...
Then you had this one, then The People That Time Forgot.
Yeah.
And then your favourite.
More Lords of Atlantis.
Yeah.
Which was out later, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
that
later.
But
Yeah,
he
that was the last
came
one.
out
He was a
television
franchise,
in the
because as a kid, I remember if Doug McClure was in it, you assumed, oh right, this will be good. Because it's
you know what,
gonna
it
be-
is like McDonald's, isn't it?
So first thing to say is the soundtrack, isn't it? So when it opens up, you've got library footage of a steelwork somewhere, haven't you?
Well, it's done quite
Silhouette.
cleverly, isn't it? I think at first you think it is the Earth's core, and then gradually you realise it's a steelworks.
Yeah.
They're building the mole, aren't they? The thing, the machine.
The high calibration digging machine, you mean?
That's what Peter
drill.
Cushing's character calls it, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's called the Iron Mole, isn't it?
Yeah, the mole.
And you've got to say something about the soundtrack, haven't you? Because it's like part Tangerine Dream, part
It is.
Algar.
It's a fantastic soundtrack. I
Yeah.
loved it, especially the bits when they went. Was it Elucidar? When they went outside and when they changed from like slightly classical to this.
You could say it's
Yeah,
fantastic.
I
or
love
you-
that kind of music.
You could say it's
70s
fantastic.
prog.
You could say somebody's got drunk and been let loose in the
It's
radiophonic
70s
workshop
prog,
of the
it's
BBC.
great. Right, to me, it says otherworldliness about it. Purple sky, bit of prog on the back. The
It is
background.
a weird soundtrack. I think the whole soundtrack is weird because some of the monsters make weird sounds. Everything's weird. Like I said,
They've just
Jump
discovered
Man.
these sound samples, haven't they?
Yeah, they've gone crazy, haven't they? They go, look what we can do. Let's do
We
that.
can do that, yeah,
Let's
it's
do
new.
this.
So we see the mole, and it's in Wales. It all starts in Wales.
Yeah,
It was
It's in
places.
Wales, Rhondda
Yeah.
Valley.
From
isn't
the
it?
valley.
Yeah. And they have this big mole, and it's pointed at, and they've got a crowd gathered, haven't they?
Yeah, in straw boaters and blazers. That
Yeah.
kind of Edwardian, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's set in the Edwardian times, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's written.
That's when it was written. It's set when it was written, isn't
Yeah.
it?
And then you've got Peter Cushing, who's the professor, and you've got Doug McClure.
It's
who-
Doug McClure.
Doug McClure, and you know he's a brash American because he's wearing
Because he's Doug McClure, and he is a brash American.
and he's wearing a check suit
And a cigar.
Yeah.
and a cigar.
You got
Yeah.
to see, yeah.
That's his prop in it.
And
Doesn't know what to do with his hands, so he's got to have a cigar. hasn't he?
a brown derby hat as well.
Yeah,
Doesn't he?
yeah.
Of course.
And Peter Cushing, is the doctor, is the professor. Is it a doctor or a professor?
He's a professor.
The professor, isn't it? Is that his weirdest accent?
It is, yeah.
I realised halfway through, he's trying to be Welsh, but he's not pulling it off.
Oh, was it?
I think he's like Welsh, trying to do a Welsh
To
accent.
me, he irritated me in it, actually, this. Yeah.
David,
Yeah, bumbling around. It was
Lapses,
misplaced.
yeah, like posh fella, but also at times slightly Welsh.
Well, when you think at this time, he'd have been playing Moff Tarkin.
Yeah.
He'd been filming Moff Tarkin, and then Yeah. Looking down his list, or what am I doing next, or Dotty Professor.
Fascinating actor. I looked him up on Wikipedia. You wouldn't believe. He was in. I don't. Is this true or not? Someone write in and tell me, because it's on Wikipedia. 3 fascinating facts about Peter Cushing. A. He collected model soldiers. He was a gamer.
All right.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Played war games. Yeah.
Well, we've got citation here.
Citation. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Is it corroborated?
About 10 years ago, there was someone at work who fancied him, even though he was like
An actor
50 years old. Yeah, he's 50 years older than her.
She fancied Peter Cushing.
Yeah, she had a thing for him.
Really?
She was a big horror film fan. So fancied
Oh,
him.
right. Okay.
So, go on, carry on.
Oh, that's more interesting than these fans. I'm intrigued by this woman who fancied Peter Cushing. Anyway, the next thing is he was vegetarian as well for most of his life.
For most of
his life, I think he's president or something of the Vegetarian Society for a while.
And then did he get on to eating meat?
No, I think he ate meat, and then he got on to being vegetarian later. I think that came later, but yeah. And thirdly, he had a fear of the dark.
Fear of the dark?
Fear of the dark.
How can he chase vampires if he's
this is it, isn't it? He spent most of his time up to his knees in gore in horror films. He's a vegetarian. And he's frightened of the dark. He spent most of his time in Hammer horror films, which are predominantly set at night. I'm not sure it's true, but that's what it says.
Yeah, that's probably why he was ambivalent to the dark side.
Of course, yeah, ironically. It says he got over it. He went for walks at night. Bit of a tip there, if you're frightened of the dark. The Peter Cushing method.
Get mugged.
Yeah, got the fear of being mugged then. But the dark didn't find
That's substitution, isn't it?
Right,
fear of being mugged.
So they get inside the cockpit, get all the dials. It's very, very pulpy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And tells him to put his cigar right.
Because they run out of oxygen.
Yeah.
There's no oxygen tanks.
Health and safety gun.
Worst design drill I've ever seen.
It's like the thing out of Thunderbirds, but just bigger.
Yeah.
Thunderbirds used to have a drill thing in Thunderbird 2. It just looks like that, but bigger.
Which came first, though?
So it drills down and it goes through different layers, doesn't it? It goes underwater.
Yeah.
Practically all over the place, doesn't it? Up and down.
What's going on?
It takes a wobbly line on that graph, doesn't it?
There's a picture of the Earth, doesn't like a.
It's a very cheap way of showing them drilling. All the way along.
It goes along, and they ultimately get knocked off the swivel chairs, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very cold. It's very hot. You just everything, don't they?
And then they wake up in this lurid, coloured place.
They're at the Earth's core.
They never actually get there because that line goes across a bit and then back up. They're actually on the way up.
It does. I did notice that. According to the graph, the radar thing in his machine, they don't actually get to the Earth's core. But then, how reliable is it? I mean, the whole machine's not reliable. That's why they're in that predicament, isn't it? So
we've only gone about
we
200 feet underground.
Probably so. We landed in a movie set.
And there's all this like flora and fauna.
Purple flora and
fauna.
Yeah.
And then we get the first thing, don't we? The giant budgie lizard comes through the...
Yeah.
That strange hawk-like creature thing with its funny face thing.
I have to say,
it was a man in a suit.
All the monsters in the film generally reminded me of It's a Knockout. You know, when they used to have people dressed as giants fighting each other.
Wobbling
I don't think
it just reminded me of that, like the Phil Rouge. I thought Eddie Waring, he's a commentary from Eddie Waring, Italy and Spain, dressed as monsters.
It's obviously the weak point of the film, isn't it? The money spent on the monsters.
But
it's age,
he's going to
isn't it?
defend it now.
Go on.
Go on, defend it.
Well, I knew as a kid that the monsters were costumes, but I still thought they were brilliant.
Yeah, because you were expected to fill in the blanks with your imagination. In them days, they knew this was a common thing, like watching a play. You know these things that aren't in proper effects for the play, but you accept it. And that you'll think, yes, I know it's a guy, but it's also a monster.
Yeah.
So they get rescued, don't they? They get rescued by the Sagoth, the half human, half pig creatures.
Slaver things.
Slave things talk like fax machines, don't they?
Yeah, they do that again. Radiophonic workshop.
I thought the sound had gone on the DVD when that right.
You looked at a faulty one and took it to the shop. I wonder if that fella who used to rent it out used to get that complaint. They give it back to him and said, it's faulty, this. Can't do what them little fellas are saying. Take it back.
If it did, we never got it back. I think we ended up
probably
with
binned it
somewhere in time or something like that.
Faulty one, this. Throw it away.
If they find out from Dia, it's Dia. I thought it was Dia, but it's Dia, isn't it? So Caroline Munro is Dia.
Yeah.
Tells them that they're being taken as slaves for the Mayhans who are in the city, and they're being done there. Now, there's a complicated bit. This is very subtle. This because Doug McClure steps in, doesn't he, to stop her being
Rubbish by a boyfriend.
Yeah,
Frank Zappa. He likes to again.
He does.
Prog rock
He
band.
does look like
Frank
they
Zappa or
do
somebody
like
out of Boston.
I think the whole tribe looks like a prog rock band, doesn't it? Yeah, like Spinal Tap.
and he does something. Doug McClure steps in, punches out. But of course, that's bad, isn't it? Because that's a 4-part, and I don't quite understand it. But by doing that, it's a bit like, you know, if you sip your tea at the wrong way.
Well, isn't it apparently because he's fought off the competition, he has to claim her, doesn't he?
To marry her.
And being a polite
quite convenient
man from the surface world, he doesn't do that. He just protects her and then says, "Oh, there you go, madam, I've protected you." But really, he's supposed to claim her, isn't he? Or something?
Yeah,
and she's offended, and that's the end of that. Apparently,
yeah,
that's what we think.
It's very complicated.
It's a bit.
I could never work that out.
It's a weird custom, isn't it?
Yeah, weird custom. And what you see in Edgar Rice Burroughs, there's quite a bit of that thing about aggression and the rights of aggression and people asserting power through claiming.
It's that pulp thing, isn't it? If you're the hero, the macho, you
Yeah.
sock someone on the jaw.
Well, there's a bit
Robert
of that.
Howard, isn't it? You punch
Yeah.
someone and you claim the prize,
I
don't
think
you?
there's a bit of that in John Carter as well, isn't there? I saw the film, John Carter film, which is quite good actually. And there's a bit of that in that, you know, about tribes and princesses and people's rights over other people, that kind of thing is there. I suppose Tarzan's very similar to that,
if you read
yeah.
Tarzan's Rise to the Jungle is him asserting power over other apes and showing dominance. And there's quite a lot of that.
Yeah, and there is, and like you said, it's cool that's a central part of it, really, isn't it? Because he's committed this error of judgment, or because he doesn't realise what he's done, that he wants to kind of find her again, doesn't he?
Yeah, there's little bits of savage etiquette.
So is he finding her because he fancies her?
Well, he's Caroline Munro, so yeah.
Well, he would do.
He
Even though
would
he's like
fancy, wouldn't he?
30 years older than her
Yeah.
at that time.
I don't think, would he be though?
Was he much? No, I don't think he was actually. He died quite young, didn't he? I think?
He did.
He
He was
did.
40 something when he
59.
looked older than
59.
59.
He had 6 wives. 59, 6 wives. That's some going, that, isn't it?
It is. No,
Lesson
he
for you
died.
there.
He died, hadn't he?
No, seen him off.
Okay, so as they're being taken to the caves, this is where you see 2 lumbering pig-like things.
Yeah, this is where
Charging into
Spain
it.
and Italy's contestants in the Full Rouge batter each other senseless, dressed as rubber monsters.
And it's an epic clash, isn't it? Where they run into it and the faces don't move, do they?
It's just obviously 2 guys trying to punch each
It
other's
is too
stomach.
many rubber suits running at each
so
other.
obvious.
Punching
On a
each other.
split screen focus thing.
Yeah, it's
isn't
split screen, so
they're below and half the screen.
Yeah.
And stuck at the.
And you've got the sound effects, and you've got Peter Cushing going ooh in the background. Haven't
Yeah.
He ruins it, him, doesn't he, Peter Cushing? Bumbling around. That misplaced comic timing.
That was his finest moment.
He's a good actor. You can't not like Peter Cushing.
Well,
but
he played
spoils it to
Doctor Who, didn't he? In 2 Doctor Who films.
him. Did he play him like that?
Well, I didn't quite.
Ooh.
It's not quite like that, but it's a similar kind of thing. I think Doctor Who is a bit more competent, but obviously, it's a similar. But it's a similar kind of role, isn't it? He's like, you know, going somewhere with his assistant, his companion. So, yeah,
Same part, isn't it?
But I think he played Doctor Who. Kind of, it might have been the late 1960s, I think, early 1970s. Can't remember.
Yeah.
There's two films, isn't there?
So the humans are then led towards the caves, and there's it seems to take a long time, this bit, doesn't it?
It takes a hell of a long time, and there's a tip there for every games master. If you ever have to do a journey in a game, just get it over with, because
They do say they've had 2 days travelling, don't they?
But it feels like two.
Like two
it's
real
only an
time.
hour and a half long film, but it felt that bit feels. Oh, mate, going on forever.
So in the caves, and they're going to be offered as a sacrifice to the Mayhars. Now, to me, the Mayhars are terrifying.
The creepy blinks.
With the creepy blinks.
Creepy blinks and creepy noises.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, although I did joke about the soundtrack and the special effect, the noise special effects, it does add something to it. The noises are weird. It's full of weird noises. That's the thing actually surprised me rewatching it, that I didn't. The only thing I didn't remember from being a kid, how weird the sound effects are, and it's just full of weird sound effects, right from those little pigmen, the way they speak, to the way the Mayhars make the screechy noises. The whole thing's full of weird noises, isn't it?
Full of
Which
electronica, isn't it? They've
Yeah,
obviously
but it does add
opened up
something sort of
It does.
odd to it, you know.
And the way that these Mayhars look, they're like high in the caves, aren't they? And they seem to have some kind of telepathic power between each other and some over the little pigmen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
control
them, don't they?
Yeah.
It's done quite effectively, that, isn't it?
Yeah. But Innes, Doug McClure escapes, doesn't he? He gets away. Goes on for a bit, and about halfway starts putting chalk on the walls. Doesn't do it earlier on.
No,
Where's he
you
get the
just
chalk from, though?
Yeah, yeah,
He just appears with a bit of chalk, doesn't he?
yeah.
Even though he's already lost.
Yeah, where did he find that?
And so eventually he gets his way through, and he sees a local, doesn't he?
He comes outside the cave. doesn't he?
Outside the
Gets-
cave, starts having a
That
fight.
becomes a proggy soundtrack, doesn't it? Every time we go outside, it's like purple skies.
And then they get attacked by a plant.
They get attacked. They fight each other, don't they? First,
fight,
and then they get
yeah.
attacked by a plant. I think Doug saves his life by the man-eating plant.
That was quite a good effect, that plant.
That plant.
Yeah, it was quite creepy, that scene.
Yeah,
It was done quite well for what
yeah.
the limited kind of effects they had.
And so they start to conspire, don't they, to
Yeah.
overthrow the Mayhens. And they get in. And then this is the scene, isn't it? This is the scene where the women are offered as sacrifice.
Yeah,
And to me, this is terrifying.
that is genuinely that is creepy and weird, because they're like hypnotised, these 4 women, aren't they? And they're kind of picked off by these Mayhar.
It's like straight out of a sexploitation film, isn't it?
You know.
I didn't have to convince my dad that hard to go and watch it, though. That's the thing. 3 times one holiday in Morecambe.
Yeah.
Captured, isn't he, Doug McClure at this point, and he's forced to fight a giant lizard.
Yeah.
It's like a bull, isn't it?
The Swedish it's a
Rhinoceros.
knockout team. Swedish is a knockout team.
Is it not like a
three of them.
rhinoceros?
Three Swedish fellas in a suit.
To be honest, it frankly looks like it couldn't be arsed fighting him, to be honest. 'Cause it's like a big lumbering thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Thinking, what am I doing here?
It doesn't look that dangerous.
No,
It's not very agile, is it? You can just wear it out by walking around in a circle. It's like
They
tottering
couldn't
round.
really bite him because they didn't have the effects for the teeth. It kind of just nuzzled him, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Like
Like,
bumped into him.
killer pantomime horse that's chasing him round.
and so he sticks his spear into it and kills it.
His
Kills
broken
it.
spear.
His broken spear.
Yeah.
And
Quite
The-
conveniently, they'd run outside the cave and there's something be on the cliff edge and she's there.
yeah,
Why are they there? Just appeared out of nowhere. No, Doug jumps across, saves her by sheltering her. And the professor,
Raffles gets a bow and arrow, doesn't
bow
he?
and arrow from nowhere,
Somewhere. Yeah. Finds one there.
he shoots at the fire-breathing dragon, could you call it?
Toad thing.
Toad.
Fire breathing toad or something.
It just
isn't
rolls down the hill, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Does it explode at the bottom?
It does explode, yeah.
Should the dragons explode when you fall down?
It seems, like a fire breathing creature, so it seems like a flaw in its survival. From a Darwinistic perspective, if it has tumble and explodes, there's not much future for them, is there?
No.
Survival of the fittest and all that.
So when they've got a deer, it starts getting this complicated power relationship again, doesn't it? She starts telling him about the ugly one and the sly one.
Yeah. They're all called something, aren't they? No wonder. At one point, the tribes admit they don't all get on. No wonder. You're the ugly one, you're the sly one. All right, you're the fat one then. You're the one with big ears. You're the spotty one.
They're very judgmental, aren't they?
They are, aren't they?
And so they get... I'm trying to work this out. So is it the ugly... I can't remember it. Is it the ugly one who...
It's the ugly one who wants her. And he's,
Yeah, but I couldn't get that. Because the sly one had been trying to get her, but Doug McClure stepped in. Punched the sly one.
The sly one decided to back the ugly one.
Yeah, the sly one
Yeah,
thought, she belongs to the ugly one.
I
Where's
can't.
he?
Maybe it's the savage etiquette. He's been defeated. He accepts that and thinks, all right, well, in that case, I'll get the ugly one to do over Doug as a sort of.
So it's really this thing. It's
weird
just like
sort of
a
proxy revenge.
sequence of encounters, isn't it?
Yeah.
I could think of. We'll have a fight with this
Yeah,
dragon.
yeah.
Fight with this bull lizard thing. Fight with this walking peacock thing in the jungle.
It's an AD&D module, really, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
One encounter after another,
Yeah.
no plot.
And a dungeon.
And also what Doug does, he kind of raises them up as an army. He starts getting them to feel like revolution. They don't have to be slaves, do they, anymore?
No.
And so he ends up defeating the ugly one, the sly one, and
Both of them.
The Mayhars, eventually.
the Mayhars. And what they have a chance now of taking Dia home.
Yeah.
But she doesn't want to, does she?
No, she dumps him.
She doesn't want to go. Why would she want to go though?
Because she said she was happy.
If Carolyn Monroe said, don't you stay there with Carolyn Monroe in the centre of the
You
earth?
would, wouldn't you?
You would, wouldn't you? Anyone would. I mean, why would you say, oh, well, I'm not coming with you? Oh, well, never mind.
stay
Then
here,
I'll
love.
go. Oh, thanks.
It's
And you
all
just
that
stay.
effort for nothing.
Yeah.
But it always looked a bit unrealistic, that relationship to me. Doug McClure, and it was doomed to disaster.
To be fair,
So she
not,
dumped
just,
him.
not just the relationship's unrealistic, but everything else.
I think what you'll find is that's called acting, because Caroline Munro's playing a very difficult part in that, where she's trying to.
Yes, it'd be difficult playing a woman from the Earth's core. Yeah.
But also trying to. What she's trying to do as a princess is to balance the responsibilities towards her people and her own desires.
Wow,
So she's-
why
yes.
did she have any responsibilities to her people?
Of course, because she's a princess.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
He mentioned that in passing, but there was no evidence of that, was there?
But she had to balance those responsibilities with her own personal desires, and in the end, she chose.
Well, that's fine. But why didn't Doug just stay with her? I think in a modern retelling of it, he'd stay with her, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
He'd bend to her kind of.
But did they do a remake a couple of years ago with The
They-
Rock?
They did
what was
Journey to the Centre of the
Oh,
Earth,
right.
and it's easy to confuse the two.
Yeah.
Because
Why? How can these things be confused?
so the giant mole returns to the surface of the
does,
Earth.
yeah.
Yeah, peace is restored.
It returns behind two Keystone Cops outside the White
In the-
House. doesn't
in
it?
the White
It comes
House
to the White House
lawn.
gardens,
Yeah.
the lawn, yeah. Two Keystone Cops like run around like in circles and then run away.
It would have been an anticlimax to end up back in the Rhondda Valley.
Rhondda Valley, yeah.
So yeah, they end up in the White House. So that's at the Earth's core. So as a game, so we already said that it's a series of encounters. What else can we get from it? As a
Well, if you give your players a drill, they can drill their own dungeon. There you are. Sod drawing a map.
A machine that goes
Machine,
crazy.
you gotta drill
goes
your own
out of
dungeon,
control. Drills your own dungeon
Get
to
in
find
there,
your way back
drill
out.
your way down, and I'll just throw some encounters in
Yeah.
the way.
yeah.
It's easy, isn't it? No map needed.
I do think the ending does smack actually of a role playing session that's run out of time, where the games master says, the players say, well the drill, the mole, wasn't it broken? Oh yeah, all right, it's fixed now. All right, what do we do about the princess? Nah, nothing. Never mind. You go home. Right, get over it.
Was it? Would you say it was a Cthulhu scenario or not? To me, it's because it's set in the Victorian, Edwardian era.
Like
Isn't
a big pulp Cthulhu.
It doesn't,
couldn't it?
To me, it's not fantasy.
No, it's more like a science
And I
fiction.
kind of, to me, it's got to go into the kind of almost like he imagines his early Call of Cthulhu scenarios. In fact, they did have one where they went into a land of the dinosaurs almost.
It does have a. There's a whiff of Cthulhu about it.
Without the mythos in it,
creatures,
but the kind of
But you could say the Mayhens is mythos creatures. They're like Migos, aren't they?
Yeah.
Migos.
Yeah.
Capturing because I think in the novel they indicate that the telepathic powers travel through dimensions, so their thoughts travel through dimensions.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's not obvious when you first watch it, but the more you think about it, I suppose that is the role playing box. It sort of does fit in, doesn't it?
Mm.
And the other thing is that back in the day, back in the 80s, you probably didn't realise, but we replayed this scenario over and over because I used to do this. It always used to be people under threat, civilization, rescue somebody.
Yeah.
You had a chance to mobilise the community to rise up against.
I'll have to do a source book. At the Earth's Core RPG source.
There you go. At the Earth's Core. I think what you could say is it. I of course have got a nostalgic affection for it, and it is entertaining.
Yeah, it's fun.
I
watch it. I mean, I was impressed by the effects really, but I do watch a lot of
bad films.
Yeah, bad TV programs. I mean, I've just watched several 1970s TV programs, so that compared to them, obviously you could tell they had more money spent on it.
Yeah.
It's more concise. I mean, what did I watch? The Night Merman. I watched Sky, the 1975 TV thing, and they're terrible, really. The effects.
I'm going to go away and plan my At the Earth's Core source book.
Yeah.
Until then.
And if that fellow with the suitcase is still around, can I have his video back?
Thanks a lot, Eddie.
Okay, doke.
All right. Thanks, Blythe.
See you then.
Thanks to Ken Santandre for being part of the Grog Pod. I'm sure you'll agree that's been an entertaining, enlightening and uplifting addition to the files. Thanks too to Steve for his first, last and everything. I have some more prepared, but if you'd like to take part, then please let me know. dirtthedice@gmail.com. If you want to hear more about the further adventures of Potty, Gut and Git, then follow What Would the Smart Party Do, as they will be releasing the rest of the recording. Baz and Gaz are hosting a seminar on how to Games Master at conventions at noon on Saturday at the UK Games Expo this year. I'll be on the panel with Paul Fricker from the good friends of Jackson Elias. I know, like I know anything. I'll be rapidly honing my apprenticeship during the convention by running games most of the time. If you're going to go, then please come along to the seminar and say hello, and we'll be in the bar at the Hilton on Saturday night too. If you're already a patron of the Grognard Files, then the Grogzine 19 annual is on its way. Somehow it's bigger and better than ever before, even though it's half the size. If you've missed it, don't worry. If you join us from June, the PDF will be available. The podcast will always be free, but the Grogzine is something that's only available to Patreons. Posting it costs a fortune, but there's nothing better than receiving a package through the post. The hosting bill is due too, and the Patreon contributions really do help keep this show on the road. So thank you so much to all of you who've given us a tip every month. Now we've reached a milestone, a stretch goal, if you will. So next month we'll drop an extra nostalgia pod and give some individual shout outs to the new subscribers. Until next time, adios amigos.